Consistent, just constantly, just evolving and getting better week in, week out, day in and day out. Today, guys, like I always say, because every guest is special, today is no stranger. I have a very special guest again, Miss Mikea Turner, Emmy-nominated PG native. I'll let her do the rest, tell a little bit about herself, where she is, where she's from, and what she does now. So, Mikea, take it away, please.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Really happy to be here. So yes, I am from Prince George's, gorgeous Prince George's, Mitchellville. Went to Eleanor Roosevelt High School. Grew up in Thomas G. Pullen, right off Bright Seat Road. So it's just so good to be home and just doing what I love and telling stories, that matter to people in my community. So right now, I am a live morning reporter on weekdays and the weekend morning anchor at WSA 9, filling traffic. So your girl's doing it all.
Yes. Black girl magic.
Yes. Okay.
Facts. So one of the things, I heard you speak at the lunch table. It was like the 5-year anniversary. Was that it? Or
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. And and during that panel, I was really blown away. I was like, wow, like she's just so poised. Like you came in, like even when you came in so smooth. I was like, okay.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. And then when she was speaking, I was like, okay, she just talking that talk. So I was like, I had to reach out and really, hear about your story, because you kind of shared some of it, but I really wanted to dive deeper, because on this podcast, I like really diving deeper into stories about purpose, people who persevere, had different challenges on their faith journey. And one of the things that caught to me about your story is just the title of this episode and something that you said in our conversation, faith over fear. But before we get there, we always got to, kind of just take a back step and, just kind of tell us about some of your upbringing, a type of household you grew up in and some of your belief systems and things like that.
Okay. So pretty much, grew up right here. And I've always been passionate about just people and about writing and about storytelling. At one point, I thought I wanted to become a lawyer. So in high school, I did a lot of internships, even throughout early college. But it wasn't really until I got to college, Rutgers University in New Jersey, that I had the exposure that I always needed to kind of see more of what journalism and the media field was about. And I fell in love with it instantly. I got involved with radio on campus. And then, when you go to class and you're excited to take exams, you're excited to do homework, you're like, okay, I'm so meant to do this. Like, I'm passionate about this, right? So, once I just got serious about journalism, media studies, that's what I majored in, minored in Japanese. I just started to get internships, and I just worked really hard. Entertainment Tonight, New York, CBS here in DC, which is why this whole thing is like a full circle moment. Just amazing. And then I worked for our Rutgers television station. So I really put a lot of work into just trying to build those skills before I graduated. And I thought that, it was enough to get a job right out of college. And that's where that whole faith over fear comes in, because there was nothing easy about breaking into the broadcast journalism field.
Wow. So, you mentioned, some of those internships, and, some of my viewers are, college students right now, and they're people, trying to get internships. Talk about, some of those experiences at the internships and some of the responsibilities you had and how it kind of shaped you to where you are now.
Okay, so one piece of advice I give to just anybody that asks me for advice, and I also have a couple mentees, is this is what I did. I didn't wait for someone to hook me up, per se. Like, throughout my entire career, no one gave me anything. I worked really hard and just established the right connections and just prayed a lot. And I really just feel like favor, helped me out a lot. Favor and grace. So I tell people, just sit down, make a list of where it is that you want to be. So, maybe 5 places that you can envision yourself working, and see what it's all about. And then find an email or just some kind of contact information or a link where you should apply. But then I also say, it's really important to follow up or just find someone who works where you want to work on social media and just connect with them. Just establish a relationship with someone there so that you can really get an inside look at what a company is about. So that's what I did when I was in school, and that's how I ended up at ET. It was one of the places on my list. I just sent an email, and it worked. And someone responded, and then I just went on with the process from there, interviewed, and then I had this great internship to see what entertainment media was like. So I just say, like, really think about what it is that you're passionate about, find out the companies that you may be interested in working, and then establish some connections within that company that would benefit you and help you learn more about it.
Very good, very good. So like, going forward, right, from those internships, you graduated from Rutgers, and so from that point, you then began looking for a job.
Yes.
Talk us through that daunting process. I know it was, quite the search.
It was a process.
Yes.
Look, how much time we have?
We got all the time in the world. I want you to tell it all because what you told me, it was so powerful, and I was like, I have to get on the podcast. So literally, you got all the time. You got the green light. You just go.
All right. So first of all, I do want to say, just don't give up. I don't care how discouraged you get, because there were times where I was like, what is going on? Like, I've graduated. I did well, graduated with honors, and, have all these internships. I have all this experience. I am ready, world, right? No. I started applying to all these stations across the country, small market stations, because typically you start off in smaller cities. And I highly suggest that, like, it's okay not to start big, because you want to go to places where you can work on your skill, where you can make mistakes and learn from them and not be penalized for it. So I started applying to all these different stations across the country. And when people did get back to me, it was, this position's already filled, or we're looking for someone who has more experience. And it's just like, more experience. Like, I have all these internships, I took the classes. I felt I was as prepared as I could possibly be. So where else would I get experience as a student, right? So after a few months, it just became discouraging when it was like, okay, what do y'all want?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I remembered at one of my internships, some of the veterans were talking about a cable station in Prince George's County, Prince George's Community Television, CTV. And I remember just one day the light bulb just went off, and I was like, you know what, let me go see if they're hiring. Let me go see what that's all about. So I remember I put on a little suit, had my little stack of resumes, and I just, popped up and went inside and asked if they were hiring. Of course, introduced myself and let them know what I was all about. But they were not hiring at the time. So my idea was to volunteer. Yes. Smart. Work for free, y'all. You want to get the experience. So yeah, they agreed. Till this day, I just have the utmost respect for the news director there and the staff, because really they gave me my first chance, my first shot. So once they agreed that I could volunteer, I went in about 2 to 3 times a week. About a month later, I was offered a freelance position. So that's part-time. So at least you get paid a little something for your work, right? And then 3 months later, a full-time position opened. And who do you think they looked at first to see if they wanted it? Yeah. Me. Exactly. Wow. Because I put that time in. I worked as if I was getting paid, and they just knew that I was serious about the craft. I was passionate about the craft, and that I was hungry for it. So when they offered me this, job, it was like, wow, like, yes, I did it. Like, I'm in.
I made it.
And and then I worked my butt off. Like, I launched a segment called Inspirational Moments with Mikea, highlighting residents throughout the community. And then, they started to let me fill in, do some anchoring, and then I was reporting and still doing the same stories that, your veteran journalists were doing in DC. So it was still like a really great start for me as far as breaking into the industry. So less than a year, I was out. I've always had my eyes set on, starting out, WBOC. It's a it's a dual affiliate station near Ocean City. Mm-hmm. So Delaware, Virginia, Eastern Shore of Maryland. And it was there that I really honed in on my skills. There I was a fill-in weather forecaster, producer, anchor. Yes, I was your weather girl. Some days I amazed myself. I was like, Lord, take the wheel. Yeah. But after doing it, and being trained for it, I kind of got the hang of it. Yeah. So I was doing a little bit of everything. And then I was switched to the morning shift my second year. So that experience was definitely, learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about just the industry, and I was just really, 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 really challenged, on top of obviously not making much. I tell people, when you start out in this industry, don't do it for the money. Don't do it because, you're on television. Do it because you love to tell stories, you want to make an impact, and you want to help people's voices get heard. if you don't want to do any of those things,
Yeah.
it'll weed you out.
Yeah, it's not for you.
Yeah, the
It weeded
first
me
few
out
years.
for sure. I know.
Yeah,
I majored in
it's
undergrad,
tough.
so yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, financially, yeah, I was struggling a little bit, So when my time came up, I know we were talking about this a couple of months before my contract ended. The station actually asked if I wanted to stay on board and make me the evening anchor, nightside reporter. Like, it was, another great opportunity. But I just felt God just telling me, like, okay, you did your time here. It was great. It's preparing you for what's next. But I just really believed that my potential could take me just somewhere I didn't even imagine,
So it's almost like you essentially like just betting on yourself.
Yeah.
And having that faith through it all to see. And that's the part about your story. I'm about to cut you off. I'm just thinking,
No, you're fine.
That's where I really was caught. Because, like, even after our conversation, I was like, wow, like, Mikea really betted on herself.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had the faith to step out the boat and go chase what you have perceived that God was calling you to do.
Yeah.
To the next dimension. So my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah, just like trust yourself and just like trust God's plan to just order your steps. Jeremiah 29:11. God got plans for us, y'all. Plans to prosper and not harm us. So I turned down the job opportunity. So what did that mean? It basically meant that I had absolutely no job security when my contract was up. I had no idea where I was going to go. I just had no idea. Like, it was all just the unknown. And so I just remember a day where just everything possible, like, just went wrong. It was just such a bad day, from literally paying my rent and all the money wasn't there just yet. Like, they took it too early that one time. And then eventually, like, my bank stepped in because that never happened before, and like it was taken care of. And then, somehow that whole situation just turned around. And then I had this toothache, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't really afford to get this thing fixed right now. And then that ended up working itself out. And then I told you, I came home, stepped out the car, and found $20 on the ground. I feel like God was like, here, this is for your troubles. So it was just like, that one day where everything possible, it was just like, yeah, pretty much. I just prayed really hard, and I was just like, God, like, just please give me clarity. Please help me just figure out what's next. Just order my steps. Like, help me, prepare for what's next. And I lie to you not, I put my talent tape on YouTube, and that week, this was so crazy. I started hearing from news directors just around the country. Instead of me applying for all these jobs, it got to a point where literally the jobs were coming to me. The inquiries were coming to me, and I was like, wow. Yeah. And I started getting used to the you get an email on your phone, the notification. I started looking forward to those every day, because I was like, oh man, who's it gonna be today? Like, it was exciting, and I was just like, wow, people really see, my potential and my worth. Yeah. So after about, this was like September, October, November, I had several conversations with different news directors, but I just didn't feel like any of the opportunities were right for me at the time. And also, I knew that my short-term goal at the time was to go to a medium-sized market. I really wanted to go to Richmond. And then my long-term goal was to go to DC. So in my head, I'm like, okay, this is my plan, Richmond, DC. So I lie to you not, a couple weeks before my contract was up, heard a little email notification, and the first email came from Richmond. And then about 20 minutes later, I kid you not, the second email came from DC, where someone from corporate found my talent reel online, which was linked to my website at the time, and reached out to me. And like the following week, I interviewed at both places. So it was like, wow, I have the plan that I wanted for myself in front of me. And then I have the plan that I also want for myself just down the line, just staring me in the face too. And so I, believe it or not, like, I had to pray on that, because I think that like haste makes waste. Like, I'm okay with putting in the time and the grind and the work. So I didn't mind going somewhere just a little bit smaller to better prepare me for a bigger market. But God had other plans and bigger plans, and it was just amazing once I just prayed for that clarity and, decided to just take that huge leap and go for something that I didn't think I was ready for at the moment. So, prayed about that, and I said, you know what? I am up for the challenge. So I was super grateful, obviously, for the opportunity in Virginia, but I just said, okay, DC, like, let's go. Let's do it.
That's good. So, and at that time period, you were like, one. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, and you still are, like, you're one of the youngest anchors on the entire staff, right?
Yeah. So when they first hired me, I actually was probably at the time maybe the youngest, if not like one of the youngest. Still a lot of veteran anchors and reporters were there. And then just over the last few years, now it's been almost 5 years since I've been here. They've brought more millennials on board. So yeah, I'm not the only one now.
Yeah. So, and then, like, one of the things you mentioned that I thought was really good was you said that haste makes waste. Like, can you expand upon that? Like, that's good. I like that.
Sometimes you don't want to rush into a decision too fast or rush into an opportunity unless you know for a fact that it feels right and that it's the best thing for you. And how I typically just try and determine that is I really do just pray for clarity. And I'm telling you, when I just put it all out there, I get it. Yeah. And it's clear. Like, it's to the point where I recognize when I have an answer. And I feel it. And I just feel very confident in it. And I just go for it. So I think that's just so important. And that, too, is where your faith comes in over that fear. Like, I was like, oh, man, 25 years old, and I have this like huge opportunity that I thought I would get when I'm 30 or older. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take that leap and I'm going to work my butt off. I'm going to continue to work my butt off. And I'm just going to, like make this the best experience that I could possibly make. So I just worked really hard. I still do till this day. And it was even a blessing just 1 year later. I was approached about the weekend morning anchor position. And I didn't think that, what? Anchoring in DC? Like,
yes,
what?
It's a major market for people who don't know. Is it?
Yeah, it's like market number 6, 7, or 8. One of those. It keeps changing.
Top 10 market.
Yeah, and I jumped from market 143 to number 6, 7, or 8.
That's favor, y'all.
That's favor.
We can't.
Grace.
That's faith. That's faith over fear.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
it was the best decision I made.
One of the things that's really good. One of the things that I was actually in a conversation today about was just like being more than enough. Knowing that God has equipped you to do everything that you want to do and everything that He's called you to do. So have you ever felt at a time where like you kind of like second guess yourself or just feel like do I really belong here or am I really worthy of this position, and if so, how do you deal with that?
So currently I don't feel that way.
That's good.
But before I got here, during that transition, I've always observed or been taught like you go small market, medium market, large market. So granted, I was in a small market, and so I felt like the right process for me was to go to a medium market before I came to DC. So at that time, yes, I did have some of those feelings and a little bit of that anxiety, like, okay, I have this like incredible opportunity, but am I ready? Yeah. And I just felt God saying, you're ready. I believe in you. And not only that, but just the managers and the people who hired me at the time believed in me too. So what I was finding, my family as well, my friends, like everyone around me,
a community of people around you,
believed that I was ready for it. I would just, take on this challenge and I would thrive. Everyone believed that. I did too, but they believed it a little bit more than me at the time. We're just going to keep it real.
Yeah.
But once I got there, I mean, it was just kind of like, what I was used to doing at my previous station. They worked us really hard and they taught us a lot. And so much so that it wasn't unusual for people at my previous station to literally catapult into top 25 markets. Like everyone went off to big markets and everyone's doing extremely well. So big shout out to WBOC because it was the perfect training ground for young journalists like myself, but it also prepared me to come to a DC and survive.
Yeah.
So now almost 5 years later, and I'm just grateful.
Yeah. Survive and thrive.
Yeah, exactly.
So how would you say, now, being, at your kind of, you're almost like a seasoned vet now.
Somewhat. I can't believe it's been like 9 years.
Yeah.
I always say like close to 10 years because now, I mean, kind of,
Yeah. You've been doing this for a while. So how would you say at your faith, what role does your faith play in all this on a day-to-day basis? Just, in your career, and, because you're a busy woman, like you have a lot going on. You're asked to speak on different panels, like where does your faith come in with all that, because I know you have a crazy schedule. So how does that work?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm trying to keep my eyelids open
yes,
right now.
Yes, same here. So
I carry faith with me every day. I pray every day. I talk a lot to God in the car, on the way to work, on the way home from work. I just truly feel, and this has just come with some experiences, personal experiences and professional experiences, and just like some obstacles that I've had to overcome and still, look as if everything is just all good, even on those bad days. Is that what's for you is for you, no matter what. Like, what's for you is for you. No one can take it away from you, and no one can, block that blessing. Because if it's for you, you're going to get it. Yeah. And I feel like that was the case, with my opportunity. Like, God just felt like this was for me, And one thing I've learned, too, is that I just don't stress out anymore about things that I cannot control. Like, things that are out of your control, just give it to God. Don't stress out, because honestly, you're only just doing more harm to yourself. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, let's just do it. Nah, that's that's I love that, because when we were talking earlier, that I'm telling you, faith over fear, that stuck with me this entire week. And I believe we talked maybe 2 or 3 days ago, but that stuck with me the entire week, because I really feel like you have to get to a point where your faith is operating on a level that you can't even comprehend your natural self.
Seriously.
It's almost like you have to be operating from a strictly just spiritual standpoint, where it's like, I have so much belief in this vision and this idea that I would not let anyone stop me to get into that point.
Yep.
So, with that mindset that you carry, what advice do you have for just, young people or young professionals or just young Christians who have the idea of, just chasing something that's bigger than what they can currently see at the current time in their life?
I think the bigger, the better, the scarier, the better. Like, if your dreams don't scare you, they are not big enough. Dream big, be bold. Don't be afraid to just go after it, because while you're kind of sitting back trying to decide, oh, am I good enough? There's someone who is equally, if not more determined, who is working hard, and they're going to snatch it up. So I just say, like, just believe in yourself. Don't doubt yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, who will? Like, who else will you convince to believe in you if you don't believe in you? Just go for it. Sometimes doors may not open for you. If they don't open, guess what? It wasn't for you. And that's okay, because sometimes God's plan, and this has been proven so much in my life, is bigger and better than my own. I have seen it so many times. And I'm like, you know what, God, thank you so much for not answering that prayer. Thank you so much for not giving me what I thought I wanted, because what you have for me is so much better. And so now I don't second guess it. I feel like, when you network, sometimes like you hope to connect with really good contacts who may help you along the way. And if it doesn't really turn out that way, it's just like, okay, well, there's, going to be someone else who may help me along. Or if this door doesn't open, okay, well, another door will eventually open, and it's going to be one that, is going to be meant for me. So that's just the mindset that I have. It's just like, you know what? I'm going to be good regardless.
Good regardless. Ladies and gentlemen, Mikea Turner, you heard it here first. So, guys, one thing this episode was about is just faith over your fear. Taking what you believe, what God has called you to do, and know one thing, that you're more than enough, that God has equipped you to do everything that you're going to do in your lifetime, and everything that you believe you're going to do, and all the visions that you have, they're God-given. And just believe that, just because you're somewhere right now, that's not how your story's going to end. That's actually a part of your journey.
Absolutely.
So, Mikea,
trust the process.
Yes, I was just going to ask you, before we close out, what is one thing that you would just tell our viewers, just about any advice, any insight that you want to share, just about faith, or just anything about being a professional, anything you just have on your heart that you want to share?
I would just say, seriously, trust the process, believe in yourself. Everything you go through is only just building character. It's making you stronger for whatever lies ahead. So just pray, okay? Trust the process and persevere, and you'll be good.
Guys, Game of Faith, Mikea Turner, we're out.
All right, see ya.